I am still trying to wrap my head around why they couldn't have the women main event Revolution because I did think it was like the best story going into the pay per view. I did think that you could have done it without feeling like the obligatory thing. Because as much as I love for women's pro wrestling to advance and do all of these things, I hate it when they get granted a spot just to make it the first time ever. I love when they get a spot because they have earned it, right? And I feel like Mariah May and Toni Storm closing shot could have closed that pay per view and it could have gone off the way in a better note than what we went off the way. I will say they saved it by bringing Swerve because the pay per view was a little long, so you almost forgot that Swerve became your number one contender at the end of the night. But it's not a you didn't send me home happy, right? I know I was watching it from home, but I paid for the pay per view. You get the point. I really did think that Mariah May and Toni Storm just killed it, and not just last night. Every single match that they had and throughout the story. So I personally think that they earned that main event spot, and I wish they would have had it. Hello. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today, I am just giving you my quick thoughts on AEW Revolution. I watched the pay per view last night. I was excited for it. I was excited for like 2, 3 matches, but it ended up being an enjoyable experience. Not all of it, though. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it wasn't terrible. And I always do remember the finish, and I hate it. I hated that main event. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm not here to just criticize it, because there was a lot of things that I enjoyed. There's a lot of things that I feel like could have been left out of the card, and I don't have any notes. I'm gonna give you exactly what's on my head, and let it flow. And if I forget something, that should tell you something. Before I get into all of that, you know what to do, right? Please make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video or when I go live. I do live watch alongs. We were live last night for AW Revolution. We had a great time. I'll be live tonight for Raw. We're gonna be live for every show that I'm available and able to stream. I'm here to watch it with you. So do that, do that. All right, so let's get into it, right? I'm gonna tell you what my 3 favorite matches of the night were. Definitely Toni Storm and Mariah May. Definitely Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. Although I do have some things to say about that steel cage match. The third match, that's when it gets tricky because I really like Swerve and Ricochet. I really liked MJF and Hangman Adam Page. I love that Kenny Omega is champion in AEW again. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna pick Ricochet and Swerve because there was something to fight for, right? The winner was gonna go on to become the number one contender. I'm gonna tell you my least favorite match. I hate it, but it was the main event. Just because it had a big expectation to live up to, it followed some incredible matches, and I just don't understand the booking behind it. I mean, I think anybody you put after that steel cage match would have had a hard time just living up to it, right? I thought the pacing of the show was a little bit weird because I found myself seeing that they would do like a bunch of really good matches, and then it would just kind of take like I'll give you an example, right? I believe we had like MJF and Hangman, Swerve and Osprey, and like Mercedes Monet and Momo, which amazing. And then like you go into like the tag team match, which could have been on an episode of Dynamite or Collision, and you go into Okada and Brody King, which I forgot about 20 minutes later. As somebody came into my chat 20 minutes later and be like, hey, can you give me a recap of what happened? And I completely have forgotten that that match even happened. So I feel like those matches didn't even need to be on the card. I hate that Okada just feels like just another guy. Somebody in the chat said it last night. Just another guy. I think that's one of the main like concerns that I have with AEW is that everybody feels like just another guy. You don't have like the guy that everything that we should just tune in and know that this is the guy in this show. You know, I feel like every show has that and AEW doesn't have that, and everybody just feels like just another guy. I really was shocked that Hangman won. I thought MJF was winning. MJF just went from like my favorite heel and favorite AEW World Champ to just first or second match of the night fighting for nothing and we're done. And I hate that because it's MJF. But I thought him and Hangman Adam Page put on an incredible performance. I did not know anything about Momo Watanabe. I might still not be pronouncing that wrong. This gave me flashbacks of what happened with Stephanie Becker, who I knew nothing about going into her match against Mercedes Monet, and I ended up loving every second of it. I thought she had a stellar performance. I thought that Mercedes was inspired and really wrestled a great match. I really enjoyed it. It was hard, like it was hard hitting, it was strong style. You could just tell that they had great in-ring chemistry and they like working with each other. Swerve and Ricochet, it played with emotions with Nana walking away, the rope. I was waiting for a crazy scissor spot. I'm kind of glad it didn't happen because we had so much blood and so much crazy shit happen on this show. That I'm glad that Swerve and Ricochet just went and wrestled a match because they're talented enough to just be able to do that and people will love it. So the Takeshita and Kenny Omega match, I don't remember much about it. I just remember Kenny Omega winning and that makes me very happy for him. Everything that he struggled with, the diverticulitis and everything, just to see him come back and be healthy. It's just like to see him in this middle of the card spot. Maybe that's where he wants to be. I don't care. He's got the title and I'm very happy. And it was a solid match. It's just that there was so much craziness and shit that went down that it just falls into the yeah, that was it was there. It was all right. There was like nothing crazy stand out about it except for I can't believe the shape that Kenny Omega is in, knowing what we know he went through. Yeah, I want to talk about Mariah May and Toni Storm. The blood was crazy, and I'm a big hardcore girl. I love hardcore matches. I love blood, but at some point, I'm not cringing. I'm just worried. Like, did you cut too deep? Like, what's going on here? And I silly of me, I've seen wrestlers bleed a shit ton and they're okay. Like, but it did add to the drama of the match. I just don't think that's for everybody. Maybe that's why they didn't have a main event. It was for me. I really enjoyed it. I thought these women killed it. I thought they deserved the main event. The steel cage match. Okay, there is definitely nothing that Osprey cannot do. Kyle Fletcher is absolutely incredible, and this feud with Osprey has really made him stand out to me. It got a little kinky. It was kind of like sexually charged. We're making jokes about it. Also, I cannot get over the fact that the other guy, what's his name, Mark Davis, is on the outside. And he comes in and he's bleeding too. I've coined the term sympathy bleeding because why was he bleeding? The spot that they did off the top of the cage is insane, but the kickouts in AEW are just absolutely ridiculous. Like, can we just like I don't know, just sit there instead of doing a cover because some of these kickouts are just beyond belief. Like it just gets. I'm sorry, maybe it's not for me, but it just gets ridiculous, and you just don't believe it anymore. At some point, it does make the finish be surprising because you don't know when it's ever gonna end because they kick out of absolutely everything. There was thumbtacks on somebody's penis, and he kicked out like nothing has just happened. But Brock Lesnar gets a punch to the nuts and he can't move after. So I don't know. It just like it's not consistent, but I just cannot believe the talent that these two guys have. And I'm glad that Osprey won. I think that Osprey could be the guy. I just told you that I feel like AW lacks the guy. I think that Osprey could be that guy, but they have beaten him so much. But he's still pretty over. I still think there's time to savor that and like put him on the top of the car spot as soon as you can because there's gotta be something else for him. There's gotta be something else for Toni Storm. There's gotta be something else for Mariah May. Please make it interesting. I didn't like Mariah's title reign to its entirety. It has some highlights, but I barely saw her on TV during when she was world champ. And the main event, this Mox Dead Rider storyline is driving me crazy because I used to really like Mox, but I cannot get behind this. I don't understand it. I don't know what's going on. It feels lame. The title in the briefcase is weird. I don't know. I still don't know what their motivation is. Wheeler Yuta is just useless, and it was a great moment to crown Cope and maybe have Christian cashing in the middle of the match made absolutely no sense. Although maybe he thought he couldn't beat Mox and he thought maybe I can, pin Cole because he's done it before. So I guess if you're doubting, I'm trying to think why would you make that decision. But I guess when Seth Rollins came in and cashed in on Brock and Roman, they were both down and spent. Here, I don't know. I guess maybe he thought that Cope couldn't beat Mox, so he had to cash in that moment and capitalize on it. But all of the teases of the cashing, the story with Cope and Christian, everything just went to hell. They just wasted the cash in. But at least you keep Cope protected. Okay, let's protect this 51-year-old and have Osprey and Okada and all these people take losses Like I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then Moxley goes on to retain, and Jay White and Wheeler Yuta go off fighting. And yeah, we do see Swerve, who became number one contender on his great match with Ricochet at the end. Does a spot with Mox, and that's how we go off the air. Listen, I enjoyed the show for the most part. Oh, I forgot to add that I think that Shelton Benjamin and freaking Bobby Lashley are the only guys there that look like they're it. But you put them against the Outrunners. It's a joke that that match even lasted that long. I'm sorry, the Outrunners are just not for me. And that match, like, didn't need to be there. It wasn't a good match. They need to do some. Everybody needs to do something about the tag team division. This isn't just an AEW problem. Trust me on that. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was like one of those pay-per-views that AEW always does. I think they do the more the merrier, where it's just like, no, you could have taken out a couple of matches. You could have shortened some of the matches, because it felt like every match had like 20 minutes on. That's not necessary. Why are you honking, bro? I'm making a video. So yeah, overall, I'm gonna give it a ranking of like a 6.5, 7. I think the low points for me don't outweigh the high points. I just wish I would have ended the pay-per-view with a better taste in my mouth. But the steel cage match, Tony Storm and Mariah May, go watch MJF and Heyman, watch Ricochet and Swerve if you gotta pick about which matches you gotta pick. Just be aware there's a lot of blood in this show. There's a lot of kickouts in this show. But again, I didn't get to watch the pre-show, so I didn't. There's like 4 matches on the pre-show too, so it's just a lot. I don't know if any. Were you there in person? Does it feel like a lot? Because also the crowd didn't hold the main event; they were spent, and they were there for what, 6 hours, and they just witnessed that steel cage match. So I don't blame them. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy it. AEW on paper has such an incredible roster that I think they could be doing so much better than what they're doing if they just tighten up the screws. But yeah, it was a fun show. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you watch AEW Revolution? What do you think about it? Do you agree, disagree with some of my takes? I love to read what you guys are thinking. Until next time, adios.